Um, Okay, so let's just get started, I suppose. So let's go over what project's supposed to achieve. So I'll preface this by saying, hey, my name is Brett. I'm a software developer for a company called Grouper, iOS app, and I'm one of the senior developers there working on the JSON API. So the reason why I decided to do this was to sort of flex my open source muscles a little bit, because I haven't done anything for a while. And essentially, this is pain-driven development. So I've talked to quite a few software developers recently, and I've been reading on Hacker News and things that with mobile applications becoming more and more in the industry, JSON APIs have sort of taken over. A lot of web developers are moving away from HTML-based work, and yeah, sort of JSON-heavy environment. But the problem that you come across is mobile apps have versions, and at least in my experience, getting users to upgrade quickly and maintaining those versions across the lifetime of a project is really of different versions and things, and to try and prevent older users who haven't upgraded from basically opening up their apps and just put it away. So the whole concept behind this product is I did a search on Ruby Gems, and this name hasn't been taken. API buddy. So let's like put this in a README to begin. README.markdown. Okay. Thing here. I've been thinking about this project for a while in my head, but I haven't really written down anything. But essentially, it's going to consist of 4 parts, right? So the first part is we're going to a DL for defining the characteristics of a JSON API. Characteristics of a JSON, right? And like we're gonna build some data model or like build data structure to represent the API endpoints and attributes, right? So that's going to be really cool because we're going to have this sort of isolated module, I'm guessing, planning, that's going to sort of take I'm hoping that you'll be able to write something very similar to aspect syntax and build out like a really expressive DSL so that you can define your endpoints. So let's see, like as I said, like I really like this idea of like README based development. So let's just say like overall. Okay, is we've got pane, right, which is like JSON API problems, right? That's going to be translated into a README item, right? Then we're going to write integration specs, unit specs. Then we're going to implement the feature, right? And it's sort of just going to flow down from here. So we're not going to add any features unless it's like an issue in our day-to-day work environment. We'll always try and start by adding things to README first, so that we can get a really good high-level understanding of what we're trying to do, and then going a little bit deeper each time into the specs before finally writing the feature. Okay, so so we've got the sort of, I guess we should call this like the builder part, a builder module, right? Or a DSL, maybe. And yeah, so like, what do we want this to look like? So the entry point of this, so I want to be able to have which I suppose in the project API doc directory perhaps, and I will something like use endpoints.rb. So that's sort of a Rails app. That's sort of where I want to put this code. And I sort of want it to look like RSpec. So should we say like endpoint get should say users do, right? So we could make this a suppose like post there. probably will be simpler to do it something like that, right? So we got this sort of isolated to do some sort of weird red. Okay, what I'm going to do is context, I suppose, of successful. That's probably going to be a pretty normal use case. So, in fact, we probably can default to the success context, I suppose. Okay. So, what we want to say is that JSON uses so we're going to expect like a JSON users sort of thing there, and it's going to return an attribute called name, which is going to be string. I don't know whether that could be a class later on, but anyway, let's just do a symbol for now. A access token is going to be a string. Okay. So I suppose the for will be the most useful. Give an example. Format here and actually just give this a name. Type string probably be the default, but let's just put this for now. Of course, we want an attribute ID, and it's going to be a type integer. So I'm planning for these symbols to essentially map migration types. It won't be visible through the JSON, right? Because I mean, types are very different to Ruby. But I think, yeah, we should be able to do basics as to whether a value is an integer and things, even though technically JavaScript doesn't have definitions. So yeah, no, sorry, mate, I've had to put my resolution pretty low so that I can stream at a reasonable rate. I hope you can see that there. Okay, sort of how I want to define points. So I want to say an endpoint at this URL, and if I hit with a post, I expect to with the key under the key users to contain these attributes. I suppose user singular. Actually, let's make this a little easier because I don't want to bother with application and at this early stage. Let's do something more like a generic post. Because everything on the internet, right? Everyone's building JSON blogs. Okay, so this could probably be a nest one, but I think this is good. I know I'm sort of taking a lot of time to sort of plan out what this is going to look like, but title sort of like number one, the builder DSL going to look like. So that's sort of our first step there. Then the of the project documentation generator. Okay, so given this code, we're going to generate a data structure that represents all these and their different things. And we want to sort of generate markdown format from this thing. So it's probably going to look like post backtick API posts, the URL. It's going to have like a sort of context text. That's going to be bold anyway. And then it's going to return us. Let's just imagine like this is actually, I don't know how Markdown handles backticks inside backticks, but what we want to do is something that looks like with the attributes that we well, actually it should all be proper JSON, so proper JSON needs the double quotes. Okay, title Ruby is great. Author ID and author name Joe Blocks. Okay, line this up so we can read it a little bit easier. Okay, so that's sort of what we want to generate from this, right? We want a description block here. Creates a post in the database. Right. So then this will be here. I should probably buy Sublime. But I'm waiting for the Atom editor to become a little bit more stable, and then I'm going to switch over to that full time because open source is great, people, and you should support it. So, so that's sort of the first step, which is going to be, I think, the most. This is going to be a bit boring, I think, generating some markdown. Yeah. From the DSL generated data structure, we want to produce following. Right, so it's going to sort of look like this. Then the third part of the project is like mountable rack application. The endpoint. Right. So essentially what I want to be able to do is inside my config routes.rb, I want to essentially have my API, right? Name space API. Basically want to have a helper where I can mount and I want to be able to give it, I suppose, a path. To post endpoints, posts plural endpoints, posts endpoints. So we can ignore the IB. Yeah, maybe something like that. Yeah, so I essentially want to do that. So this is going to take the data structure generated by the DSL, it as a rack application. Right. So that we'll probably take in some extra arguments in here. For instance, what I plan to happen eventually is that some of these endpoints will be like pending true. Same with some of the so if pending true, then this like rack app will be able to sort of just, I don't know whether that's going to work so well with individual attributes, but at the very least we can stub individual endpoints so that this doc sort of live alongside a living, breathing API, right? So let's just usage. So let's say you have a JSON API built in Rails. Okay, you have mobile developers, iOS, Android, etc. Maybe even a web client who rely on this, right? You want to stubbed endpoints, new features as soon as possible, right? You want to be able to seamlessly implement parts of the stubbed API without interrupting their workflow. Right, so that's sort of the primary usage that we're working towards here. But then also, so once the features have been implemented, be able to use this exact same DSL used for stubbing the endpoints to generate both docs, documentation, and tests. Right. Cool. So that's the first part. That's the second part, which is going to be relatively easy, I think. Probably the easiest part of this. This is probably going to be a bit difficult, but then this will probably be a little bit difficult. Is auto-generated tests for implemented API endpoints. Right, so what I want to be able to say, I'm a big fan of RSpec. Probably could do this with a test unit, but we should want to describe, I have a request spec, right? So I have a spec, requests, posts, post, create, right? Example, posts, and yep, okay. I want to test API endpoint, perhaps. API post method post. What about with API buddy? We give it the path API docs post and I want to test this endpoint. Maybe something like that. That's probably bad, but I think that's and maybe we can add some some blocks in here, adding different params. Do something cool later on, but I think that that's okay. Essentially, what I do. Okay, so let's always start with a new Git repository. Whoa. Cool. I'm pretty sure this will get overwritten by our gem. I haven't built a gem for a long time, so I don't know whether I should copy across one of my old. Yeah, pretty easier. Instead of trying to do all the remember how to do all the boilerplate. So it's my most recent gem. Our gems. We can put it on Travis. Guard files always nice. MIT. Okay, I think that's all we need to pull across. So that you can Ruby gem command to generate your own. Oops. Keep both. Give this a readme. Okay. So I'm just going to open up my favorite Git. Oops, next Git. Should. I think I should be existing local API API buddy, okay. So people hate Git UIs. I kind of love software. Just okay. So first thing, let's just go alphabetical order and make sure we fix up each file. So no one cares anymore. Okay, so we want to just move this to be equal to our gem name. API buddy version. Call it API buddy. So what are we going to call? We're going to say document stub and test JSON APIs 1 friendly DSL. The hell is the difference between a summary and description? I don't know. Really? I mean, okay, so we're going to have a version. It's June, I think. 28th of June. This this is my current portfolio, me.Brett. It's absolutely terrible, ugly. I haven't updated it for ages, and I probably should be working on it right now, but this is more fun, so. Okay, we're going to use active support. We can rake guard. I don't like growl anymore, so no. So there's a new notifier for Mac OS 6, which does like the notification center, sort of part of this. You can see crap here from my day job. So guard, I think it's called like Guardian. But yeah, I'm a big fan of test framework, gems, auto test, running guard soon as changes. Definitely not integration tests, but unit tests immediately. Yeah, you don't want to get far down a rabbit hole and realize that you have a syntax error like 5 files ago, and then you start like looking all through your last 5 minutes of work for a rogue curly brace or something. It's just terrible. Really bad workflow. Don't do that. So, what am I looking for? There are guard plugins. Here we go. 220. That's a lot. Guard tests, guard rails, guard spin. What's spin? Say guard. I think it's NC. No. Notification. Guard notification. Okay. Sorry, yeah, this is terrible. Notification, Mavericks, notification center, I think it's called. It's RSpec and C. That's the one. Okay, so let's add this to our dependencies. Okay, we need RSpec and C, and let's bundle. Oh, yep, of course. Let's not. Okay, so we have correct. We're going to have a guard file which should essentially be the exact same. And we want to create directory lib, move into lib and create another directory called buddy. And in here we want to create a file called version.rb. Right, and so what we want here is module API body. We want version equals what was the hold on, I'm just gonna pull this in my previous because it's kind of difficult. My home directory is dirty. Oh wait, no, I'm going to flexible config. This is a really cool gem that I haven't released yet, but it's looking forward to hopefully. Oh no, it's just so it's just like this version. So this gem is still in the pipeline. But essentially, it was built to wrap your environment variable. So for Heroku or something, as well as environment-specific YAML files. So say that you have a billing section of your application, have like a billing.yaml with different production, staging, and then every single variable is able to be imported as class constants in your code from the interface, and then you can use environment to override any YAML configuration. Yeah, it's got like type checking and all that. It's really, really cool. I'm looking forward to releasing this, but not yet. Not yet. 001. Okay, so this version is going to come here, and now there's just one more file that we need to do. So when I load my gem, is not going to actually this file is not going to be required because we don't have a sort of a, I suppose it's like an index file for gem. I don't know can't remember exactly what it's called, but essentially it's like a file as a gem, and we just need to require API buddy version. Right. Oh, sorry. First, we want to create the API buddy module, and then we want to require the version in here. Okay. Oh yeah. I know I'm probably a little bit. Probably going to be a bit slow. It's a Sunday afternoon, by the way. This is not my day job. So I recommend, if you haven't done it, when you're watching live coding or conferences or things, YouTube has a really awesome feature where you can speed up. It seems like the brain can interpret information a lot quicker than it can sort of spit it out. So we can listen to people a hell of a lot faster than we can talk. So yeah, if you can slowly bump up the speed and get to about 2.5 or 2 times normal speed and just still completely comprehend everything. Really useful for taking a whole lot of online lectures and things in really quickly. So it's a really cool technique. Try it. And it will make me less boring, which is a plus. Okay, so we should be able to bundle now. Yeah, so yeah, this is my first time streaming. Actually, I don't know, maybe some chats or something. Is there anyone online? No one's listening to me? I don't think so. Let's have a look. I'll just write a little comment. Hi, everyone. Feel free to chat with me. Okay, so you should just see a message. Okay, so bundles takes a while. Bundles really interesting. There are some freaks. YouTube channel, CONFREAKS. Yeah, that's a really good channel, and there, I think, at RubyConf 2013-14, there's a talk about what they did to make bundle usable, considering how many times people and sort of like pros to do server side. Actually, like, I mean, how many gems do we put in here? So we put in like what, 8 gems, well over 2. Is that? Well, because like every gem, of course, requires other gems. You might end up with sort of, I think most projects end up with about 100 gems bundled into their system. And so it needs to calculate all the tree, which is really. So anyway, okay. So the next thing that we want to do is, because we're doing some test-driven development, we want a spec. Oops, wasn't right. Alias, shell alias as a bundle exec. So whenever you see B, I'm actually, just imagine that I'm typing bundle exec with whatever command. Okay, so that's what I'm doing here. So I think you just do rspec init dot a. Ooh. I'm sure it was rspec init, rspec new or something. Well, I mean, we can just do it ourselves. Like, the rspec structure is not. I'm sure it's rspec. Hold on. Let's figure this out. Let's just look at the documentation. Yeah. So it's been probably about a year. yeah, probably about a year that I've developed a gem that isn't part of that's open source. You know, like. Okay, how do we get started? That's cool, I suppose. Dash init. Of course, Brett. Why are you so? Okay, so dash init, and I'm pretty sure you give it dot to say this is the directory. Cool. rspec via what's the other one that I do a format equals nc, and I really like this I think it's called rspec foobar. It's a really cool formatter. It's just really cool. It's just called foobar. Okay, so I'm going to have to bundle. So yeah, sorry, this is pretty terrible, pretty slow. Hey, I've got enough. So I'm using this like OBS application. Oh, trippy man. So I don't know whether this is like saving to RAM or... And then... yeah. Anyway, okay, so we should be able to be rspec now. Bundle exec. Oops. That's all kind of wrong. Okay. Oops. rspec. Cool. Alright. We're going. We're on our way. We're on our way. Our spec helper. I hate this stuff. I really don't understand why he leaves these ugly, terrible comments in their code repo. Wait, okay, so this is rspec for the description failing message. It's fine. Yeah, that seems reasonable. I like the default mock framework. Focus is really nice to have. Okay. Disable monkey patching. Monkey patching's bad. No, I don't want that. I'm not so... Yeah, you should always have your specs run in random order. This is quite an important one. So if you run your specs in a specific order and you have some weird bug, what will happen is, well, not weird bug, okay, basically if your specs rely on the order that they're run, then you're in a bad position, because if you don't have, actually our spec will in alphabetical order, like through your directory tree, and just, and that makes it really easy for some specs to pass when they wouldn't pass by themselves. They're only passing because a previous spec has perhaps changed the state of the system, and if run in isolation, they'll fail. So this is really important to make sure that, most people know this anyway, but just, I don't know I don't know my audience, I don't know whether you guys are new to Ruby or you guys are experts, but yeah, that's really cool. So I love this nice no comment file. Very happy with that. Okay, so the first thing is we want to create acceptance specs, right? And we also want to have a fixtures directory. Now fixtures in this case, oops, why did that happen? Okay, so create directory fixtures, there we go. Okay, so this isn't going to be like a JSON fixture, a YAML fixture, or any of the fixtures that you're sort of used to seeing in a Rails project. In this case, our fixtures are actually going to be Ruby files. The files that we load that use our DSL. Yeah. So we're going to say like endpoints.rb, right? I'm going to open up our README. We're actually just going to grab this here. Yeah, we're going to put it one for one. To this. Okay, so now we've got some nice syntax highlighting. You'll see I made no mistakes. Okay, so this is sort of what we're going to load in as sort of test dummy data, right? And we're going to yeah. Okay, so our first acceptance test, let's create directory, and we're going to call our first module is going to be the DSL builder. And I'm just trying to think, what should we call this test? Okay, let's call it a builds data structure from DSL spec, right? So we're going to do an rspec dot describe building API data structure from the DSL. Bleu. Okay. Actually, let's get guards set up. We get started. How do you do this? Set syntax Ruby. Okay, so guard our gem file. gonna guard. Now, I used to be a double quotes enthusiast, and I know that some developers are either like strongly against, strongly for, some don't really care. So I'm a big fan of Avdi Grimm's. He runs a site, rubytapas.com. That's rubytapas.com. I highly recommend going there and reading and watching his screencasts on Ruby. He's fantastic. He's great. Great developer all around. He's got some great tips. And so he often says sort of things like, we've got in Ruby, we've got sort of this like raise construct, fail in Ruby. And not many people know about fail because Rails doesn't use it a lot, but essentially does the exact same thing as raise. So like what Avdi says is like, we've got these two constructs, same thing. So what do we just ignore one of them? And I think that he said, don't quote me on this exactly, but he said something like two constructs that do the exact same thing. You have the opportunity either to like ignore one of them and just focus, best practices and use one. But there's also sort of a lost opportunity where you could actually use those two different constructs, even though they do the same thing, to increase meaning, right? So he says like, so you should be using raise in a library context and fail an application level failure, right? So now when users are reading the code, you can see that depending on which construct you're using to raise your exceptions, you're sort of signifying to users what you mean, or like what scale is the code failing at right now. And I feel that this is the same thing for strings. So one system that I use that you'll see me using is that code string, actually a string that's meant for the compiler, that's meant for the machine, right? So I really want to see, I don't want a human really to see these strings, these machine, right? If I have, you'll see in my RSpec, if I do a describe RSpec, I always use double quotes, right? And why that is, because this string is consumption, right? And that's really well to the way that it's like, when the reason strings like this is for interpolation, right? So single quoted strings aren't interpolated, and double quoted are. So you can like self 1 plus 1, right? You can do new lines, blah 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 blah. If you were sending this string to a machine, it's very unlikely that you'd want these new lines, interpolation for that matter. Generally, if you're seeing it's sort of it's almost like a symbol, right? Like it's just a string, like bun. So that's how I work. Visually, a lot cleaner. I'm from a bit of a design background as well, so I'm big onto typography, and I really like having a code that's really easily scannable. So coding for readability, but coding for scannability. So that means like I try and make sure that the brace or any bracket that opens at a indentation level is always closed at the exact same indentation level. Because yeah, I think that makes code a lot easier to scan through, and I think that's really important. Anyway, so that should work. So existential. Cool. If I save this file again, it should equal true, but it won't. Cool. So we're not actually getting our terminal notifications, but I don't think we need it actually, because I'm going to split screen here. Generally, I have two monitors. I have my I have a full pane. I have my code, my test, and then on my other monitor I have my terminal auto test generally. But streaming makes that a little bit difficult. So I guess cool. So I'm guessing what I'm going to do is before I run, well, actually I'm going to the subject of this spec. Actually, subject should always go. Is going to be the generated. Generated, I suppose, is good enough. Okay, and that's going to be equal to a.k.a. Converty.convert, and we're going to give it the fixture file. We can just do this in line. I need to put it in a block. Okay, so we're going to interpret a fixture file. It's a generated object. Actually, we probably do dot interpret, I think. Okay, so first of all, I generate this. I expect it to have an array of endpoints, right? So it's, I know I'm going to get an error here. Should be an array. So its is going to not be defined because they have moved it into its own gem. Actually, I should just Command P here and go into my gem spec and add. Okay, so let's just test, separate a little bit. Okay, tests, debug, and then guard can be its own category. Okay, and this is tests, and this is going to be my utilities, which is a junk drawer, but okay. So I'll using rspec, and this should bundle automatically because this guard is watching. Cool. Okay, so now if I run my specs again, I should have. That's not good. No bueno, man. What bundle? I think I need to reload. I think that's the issue. Ah, I know. Okay, so rspec it has its own configuration that you just need to set up. I always forget. Okay, so we go into our spec helper and we just want to require rspec it. Cool. The error that I was expecting. So our integration spec is saying there's no DSL, and that's fine. Oops. Oh. So what we want to go into our lib and we want to create the file dsl.rb, right? module DSL end. And why isn't that so? Okay, replace. Okay, so that we should get a different error now. Nope. Ah, okay. That's because we need to go up into API Buddy, and we need to require our DSL. So now, so I think what we need to do is actually make this DSL. Okay. So I suppose what we need in our server, so we actually need to require our gem. Buddy. Cool. Alright, so now what we've got is we're getting a different error, which is what we want, right? Why are we getting... We're getting 2 errors. We only got 1 test. Odd. Very odd. If it keeps... Maybe we just need to reload. Or it could be the double format. Hold on, let's just start again. So we don't... Cool. Alright, so it just went once. Why is it? Oh well, okay, anyway. So build this in yeah. Actually, I might try see if I can split this into rows. Oops. I usually work horizontally, but this might work. Just trying to think what we can do. Need that much space up here. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So we want a module function, right? Interpret. I'm going to get a different error. Cool. So it's going to take 1 argument, and that's going to be the file. So now what we return from this method needs an endpoints method, right? So what our DSL needs is okay. So I'm guessing the architecture of this gem is going to be probably my favorite architecture is shared kernel. So essentially what we're going to do, let's bring the readme up. So essentially we're going to have this like model endpoint collection or API definition, right? So the DSL dot interpret is going to create this, right? And then that is going that model API definition is going to be what's fed into the commenter, right? And the test generator, and also rack. Maybe our definition mounter. Right. right? So we've got so this here is our like core like data structure, right? This is essentially going to be state, and we're going to isolate our behavior in 4 distinct modules, but we're going to try and avoid in those modules, right? So in fact there probably won't be much state at all except in this interpret, because essentially we're just going to build data structure, this definition. It's going to be sort of like a how do you call it, not a collection, an aggregate. So this is going to be sort of like a tree of different Ruby objects, and then they're going to have they're going to remember all the attributes and the URLs and all the data and all the descriptions and all that, and then it's going to we're going to be able to host that data model so that no other module is essentially going to modify it once it's been built. So that's going to afford us a lot of really cool things, so that test our data model a little bit more then, and try and use a sort of hopefully more functional style. But we'll see how things turn out. Yeah, okay. So essentially what we want now is we're going to use a model a.k.a. definition.new, right? Fail. Need to define the sorry, need to define the model directory, the model index, so model, and we can require API body model, so as we can just require it at the top level. Not exactly sure what the best practice for this is. We want an API definition file to be required. Okay, so we're going to create the API definition.rb and module API body module. I think I missed a namespace somewhere. Yeah, it's going to be a class API definition. Okay, cool. So I'm just gonna module. We don't need this just yet, but I'm just gonna add it anyway. Cool. Right, so we're missing a few unit specs. Whoops. Oh dear, how do I go? Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, so let's instance and create a we need some DSL. Why does it do that? DSL and actually, because we're testing a module, this should be at the top level, so we do a DSL spec.rb. Oh my god, this is annoying. Okay, so we want to rspec dot describe our API buddy DSL module. Describe the dot interpret method. Okay. So let's just say the subject. So notice that I do dot. You'll notice I do dot for module and methods, and we'll do a hash for so we do describe class. You should always use describe. Oh, this is not actually describe. Describe class, because otherwise, like, you can change, if you change, like if we change the name here, specs and having to change this constant specs. So it's pretty important. I see a lot of people doing that wrong, and it's just frustrating. And you always want to code as like legible, like as possible. So you always want to be able to refactor it really quickly, because if there's any friction between you and the refactors you need to make, the code's going to rot. What happens? So anyway, so we want to interpret a file name, right? And so we don't even know really we don't really care what file name. We're just going to double and see what we got. Cool. And we expect it to be a model API definition. Oops. Let's just to that module API buddy and case. Cool. So we have. Let's just make sure this test fails. Cool. Alright, so we have our first failing unit spec, passing unit spec. It wasn't exactly test driven. I'm kind of just sketching this out anyway. So the next thing we want is a model. Oh, very frustrating. So I've got to go up here, correct directory model. There we go. And a file called API definition spec. Okay. So we're going to rspec dot describe our. Make sure we're inside the API buddy module. First, we're going to describe the model API definition. Right. By the way, if anyone wants to comment, if it's too small or my voice is too loud or annoying, please let me know. I haven't got any feedback. I'm just looking at the Reddit. If I've got any comments or anyone gives a shit, probably not. No. No one's watching. Anyway, I'm going to share it to my Facebook. See if some of my friends. Okay. So I might need to take a break. Who's online right now? Yeah, a few of my friends are. Um, cool. I'm going to go out and have some sun, I think, pretty soon. So our first thing we want to do is we want to describe our. We've got this endpoint failing. It seems to be failing twice. I think I know why. If I open up my RSpec, I'm just going to get rid of that and reload. Yeah, okay, I think that might have been the problem. Anyway, so we'll describe the end method, and it should be an. Right, that's what we're expecting. In fact, it should. Okay, first of all, what we need to do, of course, is we need to set the subject of the spec. The described class, new. Someone's watching. I don't know whether that's myself or whether someone's actually watching. Feel free to comment. Through someone from Facebook, I guess. Okay, so, In fact, yeah, so what we're doing is we're creating a new instance of the API definition. And essentially what we do to be an empty array, right? Because we're not really giving it any information, right? Okay. Of course, yeah. So when we're testing this, we have a subject. And that's going to be equal to the. So we give the subject like a name. So this is going to be the instance. And then within this describe block, we're going to be focusing on the instance.endpoints, right? And that will run. Okay, so this is still the same error, but we should have it. Okay, so we can implement, and we should be getting a different error now. Right, so we've got nil, and we expected an empty array. So let's give them what they want. Right, cool. So now we're green, and now I think this is a good time to commit. Right, so let's just do a git status and see what we've changed. So let's add the readme. Actually, I'm going to use my GUI because I love this GUI. So the first thing is we just start like, actually, do we want everything here? No, we don't want that crap. So I think of this file because we don't really care. So our different developers may want to have their own aspect, and we're going to put that up there. We definitely want to commit the deck. We definitely want to do gem file lock, definitely. Gem, yes. The license, yes. This I want to discard hunk. Sorry, hunk. Okay. So for this gem spec, I think we just need the version. So gem setup could be the first commit there, and now initial data model spike. Actually, I probably should Should be on master. We can push this up. Sure. Yeah, let's work on master. There's no reason not to be. Who's what? That's what I want to know. I'm going to be very. I don't know whether I should be embarrassed. Feel free to. This is going to be a long series. Yeah, so basically I'm going to have 4 sections here. So anyway, okay, so so we've got our unit specs passing and complete, and now let's go back to our acceptance spec. So we've got an array, right? But what we do is that we're loading information from the file that here. So suppose to be able to do is ask. Well, let's bring up this fixture. Oops. Fixtures. API. Spec fixtures. Oh, okay, weird. Down here. Personal. Okay. So let's endpoints. Because we're going to do a few things with this. Right. Of this be generated endpoints, right? And it should be an array. Length should be 1, given this fixture. By the way, so RSpec has made a number of changes, right? In its newest version. Since RSpec 3, they got rid of monkey patching. So monkey patching is where essentially they added a method to every object in the entire, which was like just should, I think, was one of them. There are a few of them, and they realized eventually like that's not a really good idea. Shouldn't really be touching so many objects. It's just asking for trouble. So they sort of deprecated the should syntax. So why am I using it here? Well, because if I was saying, for instance, let's specify 1 dot equal 1, that's going to fail, right? Because should is a method on the integer, and that's a no-no. That's been deprecated. So why is it okay here? If you think about what's actually happening, is inside this block, I am self is equal to I think it's an RSpec example. And so self dot should is actually a method here on this class. So it's not global. It's nice and clean. So you shouldn't be afraid to use it, even though some people say, "Oh, that's dirty." No, it's not. It's good. It's nice and clean. So this is the error that we want. We want like 1 endpoint to be generated, a big block of code. We've got 0 because we're not doing anything right now. So what we want is we want to go into the DSL builder, and here so we create a definition. We want to create a builder. Okay. Give it the definition, and then within this block we are going to load. I think this is a good idea. It might see. So we're going to load the file name that he gives us. So what does this really mean? Okay, so what we're doing is we're newing up, we're initializing definition, right? So this contain all of the state from this file is going to be sort of like applied to this object, right? So we created out here builder. So the builder is going to provide all of these methods: endpoint, description, JSON, attribute. So these are going to be instance methods on this. So that's why we're passing it in. So we're going to load block, isn't going to be executed straight away. We're going to create this builder. We're going to give it the definition, and we're going to execute the code here in the context of this object, right? And that's going to return to us actually a new definition. We probably don't need to do that. We probably just need to new file. Oh, no. Yeah, this doesn't need much. Okay, so DSL builder is not present, right? That's easy to fix. We create a builder directory. Oh, sorry, no we don't. We delete that. We create a DSL directory. Ah, god damn it! Why do I keep doing that? Okay, and within there, create a builder file. Builder. So, API buddy module builder. Cool. And so we're going to have to define our initialize method, and that's a block. But let's just save that, and we're still going to get this error. So quiz, why are we getting this error? We've defined the class. Easy, because we haven't required it. So that's we're not in Rails land anymore. So we're going to have to pretty much manually require all our files. Or we could write a catch-all here, but I don't know. I like that it's nice and organized and we know exactly what we're requiring. Okay, so builder isn't supposed to be a module, it's supposed to be a class, right? Do I have any? No. I might Facebook because I don't really want my family and friends actually seeing this. Okay. Cool. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so our initialize. So we're creating a builder. Right, we're giving it a block. And want to call the builder We're going to treat it like a method object almost, right? It's like a service object. And the build at some point, like inside the initialize, I suppose. Oh no, actually no, we're not. We're going to take this block. I'm going to save the block in here, and then we're going to block. Actually no, we're going to instance eval. Right, so we're going to evaluate the inside the contents of this instance, and we are going to return a model API definition. Okay. Okay, so why at? No, I shouldn't. According to avdgrim, what I should do is do an at reader. Why? Because if I make a typo and I do at here, this is going to be nil. We get any errors. Oh, okay, I am actually going to get an error. I'm going to get that, but generally, if I wasn't doing something tricky with this, like it's eval block dot. Okay, actually, let's binding.pry. So I included so that gives me access to pry, essentially. I need to require it in my spec helper. Ah dear, why? Let's close and open API buddy. And now, cool. So pry. There we go. Alright, so what is the block right now? It's a proc. Right, let's exit and reload. Should just exit. Okay, so our block is this. If we block.call, so this can do, instead of using let's simplify our a little bit. Our acceptance test. So what if instead of this, and what if we simply within context endpoint and fixture to do endpoint API test endpoint method by default is and it's going to have JSON test or JSON test do. It's going to have an attribute of Brett, it's my name, haha, string, and cool. So this is sort of going to be like, right, I can't be bothered trying to load an external file right now. That's sort of not what I want to be working on. Okay, where is, oh, builder has the bounding pry. Okay, so Let's have a look. Okay, so interpret got one argument when it shouldn't have any arguments. Lib. Hold on. So I always like to have all my spec on one side and my code on the other side. Makes it easy to navigate. Yeah, sorry I'm a bit slow. I'm not used to sort of this layout right now. Kind of weird for me. Okay, so this interpret shouldn't take anything. It should take a block. Right, so I don't know how block is like a block of Ruby code. It's actually going to be, yeah. And so let's give this block to the builder. Or how about we create the builder and then we say builder dot screw it. Okay, let's just give it a block. And then builder. Okay. So this is supposed to take block and block equals block. Okay, cool. So let's look at our failures. Oh, I've got a lot of them. Okay, so our test for the DSL. We should have done endpoint API. We don't need the file name anymore. It should return. Cool. Okay, so that's our first test fixed. Right, now we just need to make a single endpoint. Okay, so I suppose we'll get the endpoint. The easiest way to make this test pass is 2. Endpoints. Endpoint. So this is going to be part of our model. Endpoint not new. Actually, let's make sure we have spec running our we need a okay, our spec describe. Let's go module API. Our spec describe API. No. DSL builder. The subject of this is going to be an instance, which is describe class.new. And its endpoints should equal empty array. Okay. Yeah, API builder. API builder. Where's that been built? It's been number 2. It's API buddy. Stupid. Okay, here we go. Okay. Okay. Our builder, so this doesn't really need to expose endpoint. So its call should be a model, right? That's what we expect. Okay, so this endpoints is not defined, so we want an AtterReader endpoints.